Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Spacemen From Pluto Podcast. I am your host today, Dan, and as usual, I am joined by...
Ben.
James.
And Christian.
Hello guys, how are we doing?
Well, doing good, doing good, right, mate.
Yeah? Ask me how I am.
Please, I don't care.
I'm alright.
Dan, you're right.
I'm doing okay.
Mate?
So, we've got a few things to discuss today. As I'm sure you're aware, guys, we're going to have a little bit more of a nuanced look at the Oscars, going on from our conversation last week. I know we've got a bit more to say about Promising Young Woman, haven't we? We've also got not one, but two finales to discuss. We've got the Invincible finale and, of course, Line of Duty finale to discuss. Ben's excited for that one, being the only one that watches Line of Duty, as far as I'm aware.
It's a segment where only I talk. It's my favourite thing. I can't wait.
We got another Star Wars series to discuss. The Bad
Star Wars
Batch.
all the time, baby!
Yet another of the endless Star Wars content.
It always
never
comes back
stops.
to Star Wars.
Last and maybe least, depending on your perspective, we've got the small matter of a new Marvel trailer that's been released, which apparently showcased like the next 25 to 30 years of Marvel movies. So, pretty packed podcast, guys. What a treat.
Got a lot to get through.
As usual, we've got the time codes in the description if you want to skip to certain sections, so feel free to do that. However, before you do that, if you're viewing on YouTube, why not, just give us a cheeky subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Consider hitting the like button, or even smashing the like button.
Very easy, takes 2 seconds.
Little thumbs up.
If you're listening via audio on Apple Music or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, tap the subscribe button if you want to follow us on there. I think on Spotify, tap follow, and then you'll get all our audio podcasts. I had a look at the analytics, as the custodian of the audio podcast. I had a look at some of our podcast analytics the other day. We have like a world map view from where our views are actually coming from, and there's some surprising locations actually. I expected it all to be from the UK, but that's not the case. We've got people. I'm looking at the map now on my laptop, and we've got people all over the shop. We've got a lot in the UK.
We're international, boys.
We're global. We've gone global. We've got views in Brussels. We got views in Frankfurt. We got views in Madrid and Barcelona. We've even got views in the United States of America. Now there is a very small chance that these are just VPNs pinging off some server. Maybe it's not. Maybe we do have views there. And wherever you are, we're thankful for listening. Both the YouTube version of our podcast and the audio version of our podcast. Very good stuff. Very positive stuff.
I would love to give a little shout out to our friend Rob Edwards. I want listeners to check out his YouTube channel because he's just surpassed 500 subscribers. So awesome for Rob. I'm just checking now, he's on 512. So that's really, really good. He does fantastic little video essays on more like kind of Asian, Japanese, Korean cinema, things like that. So really, also think other things as well, like Jean-Claude Van Damme and baseball movies, things like that. So really good stuff. Really happy
we'll
for
whack
him.
the link to his channel in the description. So if you want to check that out, it's just below.
Anyway, guys, shall we get to it?
Let's go. Let's get started.
Let's
Got a lot to get through.
So I guess first of all, we're going to talk about some of the Oscar films. Maybe we have a few more things to say about them. Have a little bit more of a deep dive.
Should we just say up top now, because it's been a while and we're talking more about the films themselves rather than just the awards. Spoiler warning for any film that was in the Oscars.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
pretty much
Yeah.
spoiler warning for
Yeah.
everything we're going to be talking about today. So maybe
Exactly. But yeah, you have been warned. So if you're going to stick around, enjoy the conversation, but there will be spoilers. Let's go. So, so what do we want to talk about first, guys? Should we jump straight into Promising Young Woman? I think that's the film we spoke about least last week, even though it's one of the films that I think we had a lot to say about generally.
I liked it. I think it's a really, really solid film. I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I thought it was good. I thought it was like strangely both like kind of like trashy,
Yeah.
Okay.
kind of like a bit shit, but then kind of good in a weirdly entertaining way. And then I was kind of like, even now I don't know what to make of it because we watched it the once,
Yeah.
and I couldn't tell if I agreed with what she was doing. It was kind of left ambiguous in what she was doing to them.
Yeah.
If she did anything to them.
I thought this, so the way she deals with the dean and the other girl who didn't report anything at the time, it's like, yes, nothing happened, but you didn't control that. So when it turned out she actually had left the dean's daughter in a diner, she could have been picked up by anyone. She didn't know that nothing was going to happen. And when she paid that guy to take Alison Brie just up to the room, but scare her into thinking they had sex, but they didn't. So the main character has no idea whether he's going to actually sexually assault this woman or not. So
Yeah,
it's all
Carey
very
Mulligan.
circumstantial and a bit risky. Carey Mulligan, that's it. I was
It's a weird film as well because it's like where I don't know if you've noticed, guys, but I don't know if we're like the most qualified to talk about the kind of the issues at hand of what women face in nightclubs and stuff. It's always like an issue where
we're probably not at all qualified.
No. So it was like, yeah, it was. I think obviously because the ending deliberately kind of leaves you. It's the ending's. I don't know
like the ending
because
it
doesn't leave. It didn't leave me. I think it's supposed to leave you with like a victorious kind of taste in your mouth, but it really didn't for me.
No one won. No one seemed to win.
No,
it seemed like Carey Mulligan's character was just consumed by this need for revenge, and I thought it was just kind of like that. Obviously, there's the plot twist with Bo Burnham, and I remember saying to Ben saying to me during the film, but what's going to happen here? Is Bo Burnham going to turn bad? And I was like, no, surely not. I mean, come on. Like, it's Bo Burnham, for God's sake. They wouldn't have cast Bo Burnham if, he was going to turn bad, surely. But then it slowly dawned on me, that's exactly why they cast him.
I don't know if I could properly kind of settle fully into their relationship, because I just knew he was going to be bad. I knew it wasn't legit, so I couldn't fully get into it.
I didn't see it coming at all.
Oh, I said to Dan pretty quick on, didn't I? He's going to be...
No, I think you were sort of... You definitely were... That was your theory was that Bo Burnham was going to turn out to be bad, and it was just going to be this super, cynical kind of film. When that reveal did happen, though, I thought it was a pretty kind of shocking reveal. I liked how it was done. And, yeah, it was... Even though I was kind of half expecting it and Ben was expecting it, it was still sort of it was still quite a shocking moment. You just felt so bad for Cassie.
I loved what it did as well, because it's we've seen throughout the film these other characters, while she's going to the clubs, oh, I'm the nice guy, I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that. And it's when we're watching them, it's well, very clearly they aren't the nice guy. And then what this does is it shows even the people who seem nice, when it goes wrong, they snap like that and they will just twist like that. So anyone has got it in them to kind of twist, and you don't really know what they're going to be like.
Cool. I did enjoy most of the film, it's sort of cynical outtake, but also realistic outtake of what it's like being a woman in nightclubs, and this sort of strong revenge plot. But I sort of, after watching it, I ummed and ahed about it for 2-3 days over what I thought about it, because I felt like the last 15 minutes just really dampened the entire rest of the film.
Yeah, it was very jarring, because actually, if you look at how everything goes down, once she's killed by that guy, it's almost played a bit for laughs, and it's kind of weird in the way the tone changes. There's one moment where she dies, and then that's the end of our looking in on her story, and the camera, there's a long tracking shot that just has Cassie's body laying on the bed with a pillow covering her face, and the camera tracks slowly towards the guy that's done it, and it's now the film is from his perspective kind of thing, and his friend comes into the room, and it's like this weird, almost like comedy bit about like, oh, is she really dead? And, you know, it's played almost for laughs. There's that kind of, I don't know if that's the intention, but it certainly had that
my house
kind
when
of
he said
feel.
it's a thing of he thinks it's come from the casting, because Max Greenfield is like a big time comedic actor. He's so funny. He's hilarious in New Girl, and I think maybe it's like because that's his thing, he doesn't really know how to switch off from comedy, and I think maybe it's just I don't know if it's intentional. It's weird to go for comedy at this point.
I do think it was a little bit intentional, because it's the way that shot, that entire scene was edited as well, because it's either got I couldn't tell, but it's either got no music or like very minimal music. So it's like a comedy scene, but comedy scenes usually have some sort of soundtrack and background noise.
Yeah.
But apart from what they're saying backwards and forwards, it's like perfectly silent. So it kind of turns the comedy, the comedic elements of the scene to be kind of eerie. I felt really uncomfortable with the fact that they were making it kind of comedic.
For sure, yeah. It was a strange choice, and yeah, I think it's one of the things in that film that made me just confused as to how it feel about the film as a whole and what it was actually going for, and was it trying to be this entertaining sort of almost like Tarantino-esque kind of revenge thing that puts it's a little bit style over substance, because there was a lot of like aesthetic looking stuff, like the way shots were framed, you know, etc. But then we've also got at its core this quite serious subject of the way guys, you know, guys get away with, and their treatment, an issue that's just ongoing, the treatment of women in general, and sexism and misogyny. It's kind of like this, I'm not sure the two styles really meshed that well, and it just kind of left me and Ben, I think, and you two by the sounds of it, just feeling a bit kind of like, what? I don't quite know what I was seeing.
I enjoyed it. I think it was really good. And I don't think I really had any issues with it until literally she got suffocated. I went, oh, come on. I wanted like a triumphant ending for this character. I wanted like an almost, you know, she does it, she drops the final message, she gets the closure, and she just rides off into the sunset.
Yeah.
I wanted some sort of like, because they give you that final text message and the police turning up at the wedding and stuff, but that's not the victory I wanted. I either wanted some sort of point where she realizes that the revenge, you know, they do some sort of like the revenge makes her as bad as they are, or something like that. Or more to the point, I wanted her to, you know, go through with the revenge, get the well-deserved closure that she needed to carry on with her life, and then ride off and disappear. But
also, is it possible to schedule texts like that?
I think when I had a Samsung phone, it was.
I first presumed Alfred Molina sent it. I don't think he did. Yeah. I presumed Alfred Molina sent the texts from her. She might have said, you know, I've already typed it out, or typed this message, and he sent it, because he sends us some sort of envelope. I think that's just like a confession thing.
It might be. And that was a nice little addition of. It wasn't all just she met this person and she taught them a lesson. She met this person and she taught them a lesson. It wasn't as procedural. It was a nice sort of. It just changed it up a bit, which I thought was a nice little element.
Yeah. It's funny that we've inadvertently done it. We're doing an episode about like endings and how kind of or endings you might not agree with, because obviously the film's leading you down this path of the traditional structure is the hero will succeed and win the day, and then obviously the writer has gone where everybody's thinking that, so let's not do that. But they've kind of done a bit of, I wonder if they've kind of done like cake and eat it, where maybe would it have been better if you're going to really hammer it home that this plight that women face is kind of real, she gets killed and they just get away with it, and then you just walk away. But maybe she just felt that's too harsh, or maybe even the studio went, you can't do that, you have to give her some win. I don't know, but yeah, it was.
No,
because I also think if it was the texts for me that really made it feel just a bit hokey. If it had been some other way, like if she had said, "Oh, Alfred Molina, can you leak this if anything happens to me?" I think that would have been better. Just the whole text coming up felt a bit like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. It felt weird. I also think if text had maybe been a bigger thing throughout the film and like an established sort of plot device, then it would have made it. It just kind of felt really out of nowhere. Yeah, maybe you are right, Ben. Maybe it was a sort of late addition.
I don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know because it did work that they get their comeuppance and with the son, and it was quite funny when the really vicious mate just runs off. That was quite good.
Just to illustrate that, he only cares about himself at the end of the day and covering his own kind of back. But like, I was just thinking about like what the moral of like this story is, or what its message is and everything, and like I think that's kind of what left me feeling cold, like having to think about that, because really like its message is that people are just a bit like shit, and people aren't what they seem, and even nice people like Bo Burnham, who are nice kind of like doctors and seemingly very, very caring and sort of attentive towards
looks after children,
exactly, and very sort of switched on in terms of what's appropriate and not, and how to treat people in general. They turn out to be like have skeletons in the closet and kind of be a bit awful, and when the backs are against the wall, there's this one horrible moment where like his back's proper against the wall and she's like, I'm gonna ruin your life if I'm gonna release this unless you do this, and he just calls her like a bitch and says, he calls her a failure. And it's like his whole
proper nasty.
And it's like his whole facade of like, I don't mind that you've not done much with your life. Like, I just love you for the person. It all kind of falls away because like his back's against the wall and it's like he's lashing out. And meanwhile, like everyone, like Cassie is completely consumed by like this need for revenge for a friend. Her whole life, the last decade of her life, she's not reached the potential. Like academically, she's just working in the coffee shop without any kind of ambitions to go any further. All she does is like try and like and entrap men into doing things, and it's just a very kind of dark lifestyle she leads. And then at the end of it, you think, everyone wants her to move on, right? Everyone's like, even the girl's mum wants her to move on. And it's like, this might actually work out for her, and then it's just like, actually, no. But I don't know. But maybe that's the point. I don't know. But it just kind of left me feeling a bit sad, really.
It's clever that I don't know fully all their careers, but I think all the men she meets in the clubs, basically all the male characters, played famous womanizers or popular kind of love based, like McLovin's, he was one.
Oh shit, I didn't realise that.
Like one was from New Girl, I think another guy's from a TV show where he plays a romantic lead. They've kind of known for that, and they've cast them in that kind of against time.
Adrian Brody was the first guy. Not Adrian Brody, Jesus Christ, that's
Adam
completely
Brody.
different. Adam Brody.
What is he in? He's like a serial killer in something, isn't he? I'm sure he is.
He was in the OC. If you remember
that's
that.
it. Yeah,
And he was like this big kind of heartthrob figure who was
he
was very much kind of a bit of a womanizer, I guess. He played the field, or whatever you want to call it, and maybe it's his character. Like,
if we're thinking about the right one, the way I know him from was he was in Smallville, and he was that character of, you think he's really nice, but then it turns out he's an actual creep, and when you try to say no to him, he snaps.
I can't remember who said it. I can't remember if it was you, Christian, who said Neil Patrick Harris would have been really good in this film for that kind of, because he played a famous womanizer. He would have been good in this kind of role as well. You have Barney be his character, and How I Met Your Mother be a creep on the other side from a woman's perspective.
I mean, his character in How I Met Your Mother is a creep.
Okay.
No, Christian, did you not hear the laugh track? It's funny.
I mean, one of Barney's lines in one of the seasons is, the only reason to wait a month for sex is if she's 17 years and 11 months old. And And
but did you hear the laugh track, Christian?
It's funny.
The stuff, like, I mean, going back to like Fanboys, which was our latest time I saw trash, like that was only just over 10 years ago. How I Met Your Mother, same kind of rule applies. The stuff people said back then, it was only 10 years ago, but man, so much stuff has changed, and like people are so much more kind of like aware of like how like inappropriate certain things are.
I think that's why films like Promising Young Woman, no matter what sort of plot points they hit that we may or may not like, it's kind of cool to get these conversations going. That's what these films do.
It's great that a film like this even exists.
Yeah.
written, directed by a woman. You know, about this from a woman's perspective. It is great.
And I know it is part of the Oscars, so most of... Well, to be fair, there's a lot of adaptations in this, but it's a genuinely good original film.
Yeah, it's I think it's solid. I don't know if I'd be like... I don't know if I'd give it a Best Picture nomination. I did it. I enjoyed watching it because it was a new story that I hadn't seen from a perspective I'm not familiar with, and it did go in interesting directions, and it definitely created a conversation. Because imagine, I guess the woman who wrote it, who won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. Imagine if she had wrote the winning ending, people wouldn't be talking about it as much. I imagine.
You reckon? Sure.
I don't think so.
No, I mean, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I do reckon that all of the plot points and the way that the story curves and changes, it was all deliberate because I do reckon that the sort of sour but victorious ending was very deliberate because it does create this conversation of... I know a lot of people, just from looking down Letterboxd, that have given it low scores purely based on the last 15 minutes.
This is like this debate there of like, kind of, we had the same thing with Last of Us 2, in a way, where people didn't like the ending for whatever reason. So like...
No, it was the start of The Last of Us they didn't like.
No, but it was also like, I think it was the whole thing. It was the start of it.
Yeah.
But I think...
Well, there was the ending, yeah.
But
also potentially Line of Duty.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that, Ben. Hold your horses.
Get your point down, sorry.
But yeah, it was kind of like this idea of that, like, just because something challenges you and doesn't like kind of conform to what you expected, therefore it's bad, and that's not the case. You know?
Well, the Last of Us had one of the endings that I thought that Promising Young Woman would have, because The Last of Us Part 2. Spoilers for that. I mean, I know we've already said spoilers, but we didn't know we were going to talk about this.
Yeah.
So I'll add it on anyway. But that ends with Ellie going to hunt down Abby for killing Joel. And basically, you end up absolutely choking Abby to within an inch of her life. She'd already been caught by this like cult in Florida and basically crucified. But you get her down from the crucifix and basically choke her out. And then Ellie lets go at the last minute and is like, be free. I don't care about you anymore.
Yeah.
And lets her go. And everyone had a real problem. It's like, but we were hunting her down the entire game. And then she just turns around and decides not to kill her. I thought it was quite a nice sort of... I thought it was a good sort of character ending for her, that she realised that she was becoming...
Yeah.
As revenge driven as Abby was when she killed Joel, so she didn't want to become her. So I was like, okay, it makes sense, but I can get why people were annoyed.
But in the case of with Last of Us it was one thing, but like with the case of Promising Young Woman, it's like it sounds like it's a similar kind of deal where people like don't like what they see, and therefore they judge the film as bad as a whole. Like with Last of Us, they didn't like it, so they judged it as, they don't respect the choice of the writer to tell the story they want to tell, and you can't. It's subjective. You can't just say, oh, it's bad because I didn't get what I want. That's just not how it works. Like, it's good to be challenged and it's good to be surprised by things. And look, it's so thought provoking, isn't it? Both Last of Us and Promising Young Woman wouldn't be still getting talked about now if it wasn't for this sort of thing. So
I was going to say, even though I wasn't sort of a fan of the ending and it took me off guard, this is not by no means a bad film. It's a really, really good film up until that point. It's very well shot, very well written.
Yeah. I mean, I thought like the acting throughout, both Carey Mulligan and Bo Burnham, was really good. I think Bo Burnham is really underrated just in general. Same. Even his stand-up is top notch, I think, and I've been trying to recommend it to Ben, saying you should watch it, and it's one of those where if you carry on recommending something to someone enough, they just resist it, and I can tell Ben's
maybe
doing
we'll
that.
do like an exchange, Dan. Like, we could watch 8th Grade for you, his stand-up for me.
Yeah, maybe. He's got a new special out, actually. He just released a trailer a couple of days back. That was filmed exclusively in kind of lockdown, just him, no crowds or anything. Yeah, it looks quite interesting. Check the trailer, listeners and viewers.
I'm a big fan of his stand-up show, What?
Yeah.
What?
What?
The show's called What? No, but it's good. It's because his stand-up is funny, and he is funny as a musical kind of comedian. But it's also like quite interesting and thought-provoking stuff, and sort of weirdly deep in places, like strangely emotional kind of, because it does that thing that sort of, Tim Minchin does it in a way, if you guys have seen any of Tim Minchin, where like, because he's sort of like, he's putting his kind of humour into a song, music has the power to make you a bit emotional and tap into sort of emotions and stuff. So it's the same with Bo Burnham. It's funny and kind of like profound at the same time. But yeah, I'm not much of a fan of Tim Minchin anymore though. That was back when I was going through my atheist phase, and he was introduced to me as this bastion of kind of rational thought, who's also a comedian, and he's all right, But
you went through like your Ricky Gervais, Tim Minchin.
I was an insufferable atheist. About 10 years ago, just wouldn't stop prattling on about it.
You were stood next to the Christians with a megaphone, with your own megaphone, doing
essentially
kind of preaching in the street kind of deal that they do.
Essentially, yeah. I used to go to like skeptic conferences, like that would put.
Oh wow, you were mental, weren't you?
Yeah. No, it was quite kind of interesting, but obviously. It comes. Any of those communities come with their own problems. Like, they come with their own sort of weird hierarchies, and like even the skeptics community has the same thing.
There's a power dynamic. Yeah.
It's a cult.
And then there was a massive kind of sexist kind of scandal and problems with misogyny within the atheist community and
so
the skeptical community. So I was gone and straight out the door. But yeah, it just became a bit weird. Are we all done talking about Promising Young Woman? Are we ready to move on to some more?
It's definitely
films?
worth the watch. It's a good watch. It's a good film to watch with people. I think it's one of those you can kind of watch and kind of take the ride with somebody. You can, I would say
it's definitely been the one that of all the Oscar films I've watched, I've had the most conversation about, which is great. I love films that you can actually talk about.
So, guys, we have other films to discuss.
We do.
Not that I'm not enjoying this conversation, but I guess we've watched other movies over the past week. I know Christian has watched Soul.
I have.
I watched that over Christmas. I've seen it.
Which was obviously nominated for Best Original Soundtrack.
It won Best Original Score.
It won. Excuse me.
It won Best Animated Picture.
Yep,
it won
two
awards.
Oscars.
We've not really discussed Soul. We didn't discuss it at the time. It was quite a big film. I watched it. James has seen it. I don't know if Ben's seen it.
No,
and now Christian's seen it.
Well, we can sell Ben on it.
We can spoil it for Ben. It's fine.
Okay.
So, Christian, what do you think of Soul?
I really enjoyed it because I hadn't read any reviews on it. I didn't really know anything about it. I went out of my way to avoid sort of getting it spoiled. Which is a weird thing to say about like a Disney Pixar film, but I'd heard that sort of the only thing I'd heard was, the trailers don't really represent the film particularly as the film would play out, and I was like, okay, fair enough. I was really into it, from seeing the stuff from the trailers, but then as soon as they end up back on Earth, very early on, I was like, I thought this was all going to be a film that takes place in, the sort of before life and after life, and it was going to be a jump around where they're all little soul blobs. But a lot of the film is back on Earth, and it was honestly sort of one of the best ways to do it, because it did end up being this like typical Disney Pixar, very heartwarming story.
It was almost like a bit of a Christmas Carol type deal, where he was like taken back through his life, and you get to see like who he's affected in the past, and what positive influence he's had on, because he's a music teacher. You know what I don't like about Pixar films at the moment though? The way that they kind of animate dogs or like draw dogs. Like, I don't think they're cute at all. I don't think they're cat animals in general. There's a cat in this film, right? That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
That's but the dog in Up, I don't think it's cute because it's drawn like weird, like it's too exaggerated. And the cat's the same sort of style. The characters in general are very, very cartoony and so it's very kind of stylized. But the cat is just like, I don't find it. Cat's got to be cute, right? Make it a cute cat. It's not cute.
Nah, I don't like cats.
What?
They're just not dogs, are they?
Yeah, the cats.
I'm
They're
a
their
cat
own thing,
person,
though.
but
Pointless.
I'm a cat person, but that's because I can't keep up with the dog. Dogs are too energetic for me. I need something.
Get a
that sits and
sausage
does
dog. They
nothing.
can't run that fast.
Yeah,
No,
that's it.
but it still runs. Cats rarely do that, you know.
Yeah, they're just
Cats-
a bit boring, though, aren't they?
Nah.
Yeah.
Depends on the cat. Some cats are boring, like people. So Soul.
But yeah, Soul.
It's fun.
No,
It's nice.
yeah, really enjoyed it. It's a very nice story. Very sort of typical Pixar story of being like incredibly deep for a children's film.
And it's
Yeah.
got Richard Ayoade in it.
Exactly.
Mm.
Oh
Tick.
my god, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh
Neither
yeah,
did
he's-
I until I was watching it. He literally just pops up, and I was like, "That's Richard Ayoade."
Wicked.
yeah. There's just something a bit like annoying about some of the, like his character, those weird little whatever the hell they were, geometric shape people. I just didn't like find it that very appealing. It just wasn't something a bit weird about it.
Do you like Disney in general, Dan?
It depends really. I really like a lot of Pixar films though. Like I really do like. There's plenty of Pixar films that, especially like, not so much now. They seem a little bit like dumb,
I think
not
they've all
dumbed
kind of
down,
blurred,
but like
they've all kind of blurred into one. for me,
Yeah,
especially the
exactly.
Styles.
They used to have a
they've got,
proper
like,
identity.
The face has been like the same face for a good 10 years now in
Yeah.
Pixar movies.
yeah.
Or
Whereas they
Disney
went,
movies, it's all the same now, is it? I don't
They-
know.
Have you ever seen that thing of if you go back and watch the first Toy Story, the party scene, every kid is Andy because they just had one model that they put different clothes and slightly different hair on, but it's the exact same kid everywhere.
Incredible.
I think
Yeah, I
even
love
his
that.
sister is just a smaller version of Andy, the face.
Wicked. I love that.
But yeah, I think like I used to really look forward to Pixar films because I thought it's just a Pixar film is it's like a proper mark of quality because they never had like a dud film, and then slowly they started making sequels to things that didn't necessarily need to be made, and you could tell it was a financially led decision,
And then Wall-E came out, biggest dud of the lot.
which is a controversial opinion.
It is a controversial opinion.
It's
I
yeah.
stand by it.
It was kind of similar thing that happened to Black Mirror. It was like, we're going to come out with three really strong episodes, whether you like it or not. They're going to have a unique concept and idea.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of, then it got Americanized and doubled, and I think it's declined. And I kind of know what you mean. Yeah.
I think they've made better ones and they've made worse ones, but I still don't think there's a single Pixar film that I'm like, that's a bad film.
No, I don't think there is. But like with Pixar,
Cars 2? Is that Pixar?
yeah, Cars 2.
I've
Oh,
not seen
yeah.
it. I've not seen either
Oh
of the
yeah.
Cars
Okay.
sequels.
Let's
So,
not mention the
well,
Cars
there you go,
sequels.
James, there you go.
No,
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
Cars 2, Cars 3, Planes, and Planes Fire and Rescue don't count.
See?
I'll be
Planes
honest, I
and
think
Planes
Cars
Fire
is
and
a bit
Rescue
overrated.
Yeah,
are not Pixar films. So
aren't they?
no, they're kind of subsidiaries of Disney or something, but they're
So-
not. They're not Pixar.
So that they're not Disney. They're not Disney animation because I know there's a lot of confusion now over what's Disney animation and what's Pixar because everyone's like, oh, Pixar.
Yeah.
Like Big Hero 6, and Big Hero 6 isn't Pixar.
It's not Pixar. No.
It
Pixar
used
is
to be
just,
so
Cars,
easy to
I think
tell.
Cars 2 is. I think Cars 2 is.
Cars 2 is.
It used to be so easy.
And
It's
so
like,
is Cars
if it's
3.
computer animated, it's Pixar. If it's cartoon, it's Disney. Bish, bash, bosh, sorted. Then
yeah,
Moana and Tangled started fucking with it all.
yeah. But you can tell because the vibe with those films is much more traditional Disney kind of family film, whereas with Pixar you always had like these weird kind of like themes that would appeal to adults, like and would often be quite sort of like profound in a way. Like obviously the opening section of Up was like, I remember being like really affected by the opening montage of Up, that just the way everything kind of came together. I kind of still am a little bit. There's that one moment in Up after like the house takes off and his house clips, like he just escapes from like his little plot of land, and they're all kind of like shaking their fists at him and everything, and he's off on his adventure, and then like the tip of his house like whacks against the television aerial and just completely obliterates the television aerial, and it cuts to him and he just goes like like that, and it kind of makes me like weirdly like emotional, because I think he's won and he's doing this for his wife and he's got the last laugh and everything, and it's just those little moments that in Pixar films that don't seem to happen as much anymore. Like in the Toy Story 3, the whole end of Toy Story 3 was just like, I don't know what it was, but it was like a combination of like the music, the animation was just like perfect, like the colours and the vibrancy of everything, and the way everything was just designed so intricately, like this little girl's house with her mum, and just like the toys arrive and Andy arrives, and it's like this kind of whole thing of he's giving away his childhood, he's passing on the torch and everything, and it's like proper stuff, the kids aren't going to get that. It's like,
I was really worried you were going there, you were like, Up was really great, but Toy Story 3, and I thought you were about to start slating it, I was going to have to kill you.
I haven't seen Toy Story 4 actually.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I hate that film. Sorry, I take it back. They have made a bad film, and that's it. I hate Toy Story 4 with a burning, fiery passion.
Wow.
Because Toy Story 3 was the perfect ending. It rounded off all the characters so nicely, and then Toy Story 4 took a big, wet shit all over it.
Maybe it's worth... I like the idea. Maybe it's worth... If we have a dead week this week, we just do like a Pixar episode next week. We just talk about...
I've got a lot to say about some Pixar films.
Obviously you've got a lot to say, and I think there's a lot to do, because I always like to say one of my favourite moments in all of Pixar, it's not a particularly powerful moment, I love when Dash in Incredibles, he realises he can run on water, he just has a little chuckle to himself, and then off he goes. So
that
good.
whole section is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
See, I tell you what, because I would love more sort of kids' films to do what Toy Story 3 did, where you make a sequel years later, but you don't make it for the new generation. You make it for the kids who enjoyed that first one, and that's what I really wanted Incredibles 2 to be. And I'll be honest, a little bit disappointed in Incredibles 2.
Another one I didn't see actually.
It's fine. It's all right.
Okay. Yeah,
but it's like when Incredibles 1 was
good.
so good, and you've made us wait that long.
Yeah. It's when they started making sequels like that. Like, I just feel like some of the magic was like, even though Toy Story 3
I was
is
going to
like,
say Toy Story 2 is better
no, exactly.
than the first one, I'd argue.
But I feel like they made Toy Story 3 because they had a story in place and they had something they had a story they wanted to tell, and there was no kind of... I don't feel like there's as much pressure in general to get these films made and out. Like, they just did it because it was like almost like a vocation in storytelling and in animation, and you knew when you went to see a Pixar film you were going to get something a little bit more. And now I don't get that. I just feel like it's always good, but I think there were kind of issues with it here and there, and you could tell there were places where perhaps Disney had come in and said, we need this to be toned down a little bit, we need this to appeal to this demographic more, and blah de blah de blah, and it's just kind of like diluting everything. I might be wrong, but I feel like that's it with everything, really, to be honest. Not just Pixar, just
Have you
everything.
watched Onward, Dan?
No.
Try Onward. I really enjoyed Onward this year.
Yeah, a lot of people... I saw a lot of articles after Onward came out that was like, oh, this is exactly why Onward's not a very good film. And I was like, isn't it? I thought it was great.
I really enjoyed Onward. Really nice sort of like brother dynamic in there. It's really, really good. I really enjoyed Onward.
Any other films to discuss, guys? Because we've only talked about it.
I know you two haven't seen it, but me and Christian have both watched Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yeah.
Heavy recommend. Really solid. Very watchable. Only an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Get it watched once.
I watched it based on James's recommendation from last week, and I wanted to, there was a lot of controversy, as we discussed last week, about Anthony Hopkins winning the Best Actor, and I was like, I want to see Chadwick Boseman's performance. He really gives it his all throughout this film. I went in knowing nothing, because this wasn't a film that I knew about until it was nominated for an Oscar. I hadn't heard anything about it. And all I knew about it was that Chadwick Boseman was in it. So when I went in, it took me so long to recognise Viola Davis as Ma Rainey. I was like, she is unrecognisable. Cool. She puts on everyone in the film is amazing, and it's like really this nice little contained... It's basically a bottle episode.
Well, because I remember watching it at certain points, it was like, I reckon this would be like, you could do this as a really good play. It was originally a play.
It was originally a play. So because it was a play, it's this really nice bottle episode that's all set over one day in a music studio, and they just keep changing rooms in the music studio between the recording room and the
rehearsal room.
That's cool.
And it's like such tons of powerful performances, especially from Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman.
Was it the last film that he filmed?
It was,
before he died.
Yeah. Here's a question for you now, Christian. Like, obviously, you know, Anthony Hopkins did win, but who would you have voted for Best Actor?
To be honest, Anthony Hopkins did an amazing job in The Father. The Father was a really emotional film, but I would have saved giving him another Oscar until you give him sort of the like lifetime achievement kind of awards. I would have either given it to Riz Ahmed or Chadwick Boseman, because both of them put on a hell of a performance.
Really good. I think I'm happy for Anthony Hopkins to win because he's really good in The Father.
He did a fantastic job.
But I think my personal vote would have been with Chadwick, just because watching this, it's like you said, he really gives it his all, and there's some scenes where it's like that, like you are really acting right now. Whereas Anthony Hopkins is always good throughout, and it's a really good portrayal of that condition. But there weren't really any scenes where I was like really feeling it.
I don't know if this is a controversial opinion. It's definitely a better performance than his other Oscar-winning role as Hannibal Lecter.
I'd agree.
I don't even think he's the best Hannibal Lecter. Don't know if that's a controversial opinion.
He's the only one I've seen.
That is probably quite a controversial opinion. But
I think he's quite weak.
Oh no!
He's definitely not the worst Hannibal Lecter.
He's alright. I find him like too over the top.
That's the point.
But to the point of
he's just relishing
ridiculous.
in it all because he's playing Hannibal Lecter, who's also putting on a performance because he's just enjoying toying with these people.
It's because it's when you've watched Hannibal, it's just like Mads Mikkelsen's loads better. It's just one of the most like, oh my god, it's so you got to be in such a mood to watch it. It was like almost a bit. I can't believe I've got to watch an hour of Hannibal because it is a bit of like so stylized and quite a bit of a tough watched. Although it's and if there was awards for food in movies, wow, it's got to be the best presentation of food and cooking in film. It has to be.
Why?
It's
not
insane.
about eating people. It's
so good though. That's how good the scenes are because he's cut up. He's got like a guy's leg, but it looks so delicious.
What the hell?
The way he prepares these meals. There's meals where he's like putting it like in clay and then cooking it in clay, and then he presents it on this table. It looks amazing.
Yeah, but
it's amazing.
It's a human leg, man. It's a
human
leg.
It wasn't a problem for Lawrence Fishburne.
It looks. There's not the scenes where he's not
Armie
cooking.
Hammer.
He's not cooking humans every episode.
Allegedly.
You know, sometimes he does fish. You know.
It's not illegal, so it's fine.
Yeah, mate, you should watch some of the cooking scenes. It's Mads. It's Mads as well. He's doing it. You laugh, but if you watch it, you're like, wow, that looks really good.
We're sort of laughing because we've possibly having two conversations at once here where James is just going in on Armie Hammer. And no one's kind of in the background just saying, well, it's true, isn't it? And you know what? It's not a crime. Meanwhile, Ben's like, oh, no, it just looks so succulent. It's just the strangest conversation. But yeah, I've never seen Hannibal, though. But, it's one of the many, many TV shows that's constantly recommended.
It's finished now, isn't it?
It got
cancelled, didn't it? Yeah. Cancelled.
So it doesn't have a proper ending?
No.
I've watched it. I've watched it.
Not bothering.
I'd say it does. For me, I think it does end. James.
Okay. I've always been told that it doesn't have a proper ending.
Well, maybe
it does. I would argue, James, that the quality of the ending doesn't define the show, and sometimes shows are worth the watch besides of their ending.
I feel like you've got an overriding point that you want to make at some point during this podcast.
I seem to be making various references.
We have to get to that section first, Ben. As much
just
as
little teases, little breadcrumbs.
Eager to get there.
Little breadcrumbs.
Just very quickly, talking of Mads Mikkelsen, has anyone watched? Is it Another Round? Has anyone seen that?
That was one that I said I would watch for this, and I haven't watched it.
Ben. Cool. Well, that was a nice little conversation. I sense that we've spoken our piece now about the Oscars. We are ready to let it go into the past, along with all its films, until next year anyway. So let's have a little chat about some more recent stuff. Namely, I know Ben's probably looking forward to this bit, the finales that have happened this week. We had Invincible, which I've not seen, but I'm pretty sure you guys have seen. I've seen bits and bobs of it, but obviously you've watched the whole series. And then we will have a little discussion on Line of Duty. I'm interested to hear Ben's thoughts on that for sure. But yeah, first, Invincible. What do you reckon, guys? Was it a good series? Was it a good finale? What do you think?
Pretty good.
It is
Pretty
a good series.
solid.
It is a good finale. I'm still. I don't know if I would fully recommend it yet to somebody that is kind of not within the superhero kind of love kind of world yet. The jury's out. Unfortunately, I got a bunch of it spoiled for me today on a podcast I listened to, and it sounds mental and sounds great. So hopefully down the line it'll be worth recommending. But it's certainly an interesting. Being a comics superhero fan, knowing the cliches of the genre, and what this show does, changes up and takes a little spin on, I really enjoy.
So obviously I have not seen this. As someone who's not seen it and is a bit confused as to what it's about, sell it me. What is it? What is this thing? I know it's an animation and it's about superheroes. What's the thing that kind of is making it stand out for you?
The thing is, Dan, I've got a sentence that I've wanted to say to a few people to recommend it, but the problem is, if I use this sentence, it really takes away from the first episode. So I'm trying not to say it to too many people.
I mean, I have my suspicions because I know that the first episode takes a turn at the end, an unexpected turn.
And do you know what the turn is?
Well, as far as I know, it gets incredibly violent out of nowhere.
So that's what I want to say to a few people. I want to be able to say to people, if you like The Boys, give this a try. But the problem is, if they're expecting stuff like that going in, you then don't get that shock factor from the first episode. Because up until that turn, it's a pretty procedural, almost cheesy, superhero show.
It's deliberately cliche to lull you in to a false sense of this is quite... I'm amazed Amazon have made it. It's so by the numbers. It's not very interesting. It's just it's the son of the Superman finds his powers. Okay,
very Sky High.
Yeah, very Sky High. It's very just whatever, and then it becomes its own thing. And from what I've heard, that happens later. It does stuff that I've not seen.
It ramps it up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So don't listen to the latest Weekly Planet, James, if you don't want to know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it's got one scene in this latest episode, Dan. I gasped. My jaw dropped a bit. In this epic, violent scene that was brilliant, involving an underground train.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Yeah,
wow.
Awesome. I don't care. I'll just tell you, Dan, because I might cut this bit. There's a bit where the lead character behind Christian, he is somebody has grabbed his head.
Just before you go in, for audio listeners, as the custodian of the audio podcast, Christian's virtual background is a character from Invincible.
It's
to avoid
confusion.
Invincible.
Yeah,
it is Invincible himself.
Invincible.
He is invincible, but not really.
Somebody's grabbed his head and it's like, oh, if you're so willing to if you're so wanting to save people, how about this? And they stand still as a moving underground train comes towards them, and they just go through a moving train, and it's just blood and guts everywhere. It's amazing.
Literally flies on a windshield.
I was going to say it slows down, and it slows down slightly and shows you people getting cut into pieces and just splattering off Invincible's face, and the entire train is just destroyed, and everyone in it is mulched.
Yeah.
It's super intense.
It's amazing. The violence is really well done. I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of... I feel like kind of comic animation is kind of where superheroes can thrive, I think, a bit more than live action sometimes.
Yeah, my thing is it's hard to do impressive action in animation. It's possible, but I think it's harder. Like, some things look more spectacular when they're in live action, but Invincible isn't like that. Like, Invincible does stuff that it would be too hard to do in live action, so it's worth doing it in animation, if you know what I mean. Like, the scale is there, so it makes sense.
Yeah, another great thing about Invincible that really sort of backs it up is the incredible voice cast throughout the series.
It's an absolute who's who.
Yeah, we got J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
Who else?
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill's in it?
Mark Hamill.
Mahershala Ali.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I think that might have been my favourite episode.
Yeah. Sandra
Zachary
Oh,
Quinto,
Killing Eve, Seth Rogen.
Gillian Jacobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the show. I'll be honest. Particularly by the end, I wasn't blown away by it, and I've mentioned this to you guys off camera, I think. And I think for me, maybe part of the issue was in that there's this mystery sort of running through for the characters that isn't a mystery for the audience. So when characters are investigating it and discovering stuff, I'm like, I wasn't as interested or gripped by it, because it's like, well, they're just being caught up to what we know, so I didn't find it as gripping.
Reverse dramatic irony, isn't it? I wonder, is there a term for that? Because dramatic irony is where like the audience knows something but the characters don't. But
So
you're
that's
saying,
what it is.
but you're saying the characters. Wait.
No, so
No.
we know the. It's like if you did a whodunit
So
and
it's
you're watching
dramatic
them. You already know who the killer is, and you're watching them discover who the killer is.
Yeah.
It
So
is dramatic irony, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So-
But it's still sort of presented as a mystery, so it wasn't as. I wasn't as invested in certain bits.
There's two layers to the mystery, and of course the characters are trying to figure out both layers. They're trying to figure out who and why. We know the who straight away, but
Yeah, and
they
I'd
do
argue
keep
they-
us hanging on the why.
Yeah, they figure out the who quite early on. It's more about the why.
Yeah.
And then you're following the killer, trying to maneuver around it and stuff. So I don't know if I
Yeah.
fully agree, but the good thing is though we've moved past that now and we can kind of
Yeah.
get on with it, which is a positive. But I do enjoy the show. I do find it quite watchable.
I like it.
Yeah. They've set up some interesting stuff to sort of bounce off of, because I like that the beginning of this final episode was sort of an all-out fight, closing off why what happened in episode 1 happened and why all this stuff has gone on, and then the end of the episode, like, you know, that storyline sort of doesn't resolve itself, but it stops at that point, and then the rest of the episode is setting up what's next for Invincible, what's going to happen until this storyline can resume.
I also love for a character who's called Invincible, he gets the shit kicked out of him in almost every episode.
Every single episode.
That's good though, because you run into the Superman problem.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
in the 8-episode run of season 1, I'm pretty sure he wakes up in hospital twice.
Do we have any strange superpowers in this? Do they do anything weird with the powers, or is it pretty traditional?
It's all pretty standard.
There's one that I loved though, where it's a girl who she can turn into like the Hulk basically. Every time she does, she gets younger as a human form.
She
So
gets
can
younger by a
only-
week.
Yeah, so she can only use her powers a limited amount of times, because eventually she's kind of Benjamin Buttoning herself.
Oh
and
my
she'll
God.
get younger
That's
and
an
younger.
interesting one.
It's a real curse.
It is interesting, but and off the top of my head, I don't really remember there ever being a time she's like, oh, I should help, but I won't. I feel like there's a couple times, even after she says that, she just turns into the monster for like a very simple training exercise or just to intimidate, and then turns back. It's like, you didn't really do much with that.
So could she be like an old woman and then turn into the Hulk and like get by herself an extra 70 years or whatever? If she stayed as this Hulk
She
thing.
could do, yeah, but she got her powers in like her 20s and didn't realise until she was getting younger.
So she's like 27, I think she says, around that at one point, but she looks like 13, 14.
Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
There's
she-
one.
She refers to herself as Monster Girl, and she even makes that joke. She's like, I was calling myself Monster Woman, but it kind of got a bit weird to explain after a while.
There's one dynamic, Dan, that's great. It's this like blue guy who's always got a clone
I was just
with
about
him.
to mention the
So it's always
the
this
twins.
pair of clones, but because they always like clone. He always clones himself and then puts his memories into the clone. There's this constant dynamic of, I'm the real one, you're the clone, and like,
Which
they never
one's
know
the
who the
real
actual
one?
clone
Yeah.
is.
That's a
That's
Carl
fun.
Pilkington joke, that isn't it? How would I know which one's me?
You're you.
They explain that they do it deliberately because if one of them knew that they were the clone, it would ruin them. It would ruin the dynamic between the two. Whereas if both of them think that they're the original, it means that they're both on the same page, and not knowing who the clone makes things easier.
Anyway,
Moving
the hell on. Are we finished with this conversation, guys? Do we have anything more to say about Invincible?
Watch it.
I'm really intrigued by it, to be honest with you.
Second season, second and third season. Renewed for
Yeah,
both.
they've renewed it for 2 seasons, so hopefully they don't run it into the ground like The Walking Dead.
Well, they probably will, won't they? Let's face it. Anyway, on to our next talking point. It's the moment Ben's been waiting for. He gets to talk about Line of Duty and his thoughts towards that. I understand, Ben, that the finale didn't quite hit all the right marks for a lot of people. What do you think of that?
A lot of people were freaking out about it, man. Their precious little show was like... I was surprised at how many people in this circle didn't know it like was a show. It's like a behemoth in Britain.
It's true.
It's like a bastion in the BBC for the past like 3 or 4 years.
That is true.
I heard about it for the first time 2 weeks ago.
That's because you've got a vendetta
hadn't even heard
against
of
the
it?
BBC.
What? No,
You hadn't even heard of it.
I had never heard of this show until 2 weeks ago.
That's mental.
That is mental.
That is mental. No, it's the kind of show that I suppose like if you don't kind of keep on the lookout for those sort of shows like BBC's like flagship dramas, etc., and all that terrestrial TV kind of stuff, it's potential. And you're not on Twitter either, and it's obviously got a big Twitter following. People love talking about this thing on Twitter, as Ben will probably mention. It's probably easy to kind of let pass you by, but yeah, it's like a major show, right?
A lot of BBC stuff tends to pass me by because I don't really watch. Well, I don't watch the BBC, and because I don't watch the BBC, a lot of their stuff is advertised pretty much exclusively on the BBC.
Have we ever gone into why you don't watch the BBC, Christian, properly?
I just don't. I don't know. I just don't.
Okay.
The last things I watched live as they happened on the BBC was Ashes to Ashes and like the second episode of Matt Smith's Doctor Who. That was kind of when I fell off Doctor Who and haven't watched since.
Wow. This guy's going to tell us he doesn't even watch Strictly in a minute. What the hell?
That's ITV.
Oh, you know what, guys? You know what I mean?
So watch The Voice or whatever's on.
The Voice.
That's on
ITV now, isn't it?
RuPaul's
I thought
UK
Strictly was on
Drag
ITV.
Race.
That terrible game show with Danny
Strictly's
Dyer.
BBC, innit?
No, it's not with Danny Dyer. It's one where like they basically just stand on a stage and try to catch balls for an hour, and it's like, what is going on?
Is that Golden Balls? I don't
Oh,
know.
Match of the Day.
James, yes.
It must be a nightmare in like the offices that have to come up with new game shows because it's like what's not been done at this point. There are only so many ways you can format. They come on and they answer questions to win money.
Talking of game shows, you're missing out, Christian. The double bill, the classic double bill. My mum is a big fan of this. Tipping Point,
Well, I love to Point.
followed by The Chase. I mean, what
Yeah,
more do you want? Two
Grand
classics right there. Tipping Point, I don't know how they've got away with it.
What do you mean?
It's like, have you ever seen it, man? Tipping Point. You know those 2p machines in arcades?
Oh, is that but big, isn't it?
That's the show.
They've made a game show out of the 2p machine.
That's the show. But it's weirdly watchable.
It's not even skill based. That's what upsets me about Tipping Point.
Yeah,
I
oh,
could
it's
go.
not.
There's so many like game shows now that I could just go on a rant about how just completely random they are.
I am 100% genuinely, this isn't a bit I'm doing, I am genuinely convinced that I could go on catchphrase and win the £50,000.
Really? I'm
I'm
terrible
so
at
confident
catchphrase.
in my catchphrase ability. I'm
That's
really
amazing.
good at it.
That is amazing. I've
never seen
historically...
catchphrase, so-
Oh, for God's sake.
It's great.
Absolutely. You know, catchphrase, classic. Not the latest one with that Stephen
Oh, I like Stephen
Mulhern guy.
Mulhern.
Back in the day, it was presented by Roy Walker. Nice Irish fellow. Absolute classic British game show catchphrase. I've always been terrible at it, though. Really, really bad. I just blank. It's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Just say what you see, Dan. Just say what you see.
Yeah, I know. They keep saying that, and I'm like, I know the rules. I know that's what you meant to do. I don't see anything.
I'm blind.
Yeah. But yeah, the chase is great though, man. They hit Nah, come on now. That is a good idea. Like the whole idea of the chase is pretty good. Like they've got the 5 or 6 chasers, and it's like the team against the chasers, and the way it's done, and it's just great. It's just great.
The chase is fine, it is whatever. What I find really bizarre is celebrity chase, when it's then the chasers' jobs to prevent them winning money for charity.
Yeah, that's always a bit bad, isn't it? And it's like, oh, you lost out on 50 grand by 1 second. Oh, that's a shame. And like the chaser's like,
keep that money for ourselves.
Well, that's the thing. Like, whenever I have seen episodes of The Chase, I always find that sometimes the chasers are told when they're allowed to let people win money.
Oh, conspiracy.
Because there's some episodes where you'll see them and they'll be sat there and they'll come out for that final chase, and the contestants will have got like 22 questions right. They've got a massive lead on the chaser, and they'll just slam out the answers in 2 minutes, get everything correct, and absolutely just send them home with nothing. And then there's sometimes where you'll have like 2 people who've managed to get like a total sum of 8 grand, and they'll get 11 questions right for the final chase, and you're like, oh well, the chaser's going to decimate them in seconds. And we're like, oh, and what's this? That you know, they'll ask the chaser a question, and the chaser will be like, and it's like, you're deliberately stalling for time.
Yeah,
you know the answer.
I know what you mean, yeah. It's all about the drama there, isn't it? It's all about the drama. Talking of drama, though, we're meant to be talking about Line of Duty.
We are meant to be talking about Line of Duty. We went on a huge tangent, and Ben's still got to sell us on Line of Duty.
I forgot we'd already segued into it. Yeah. Go on, Ben. What was wrong with the finale, then?
What happened was kind of what I was expecting, because the show had done this thing where they had presented that the main, this kind of villain that was orchestrating these events with the criminals and these corrupt police, codename H, or H, however you say the letter
H.
I believe the writer had written himself into a corner, right, and gone, oh god, I don't actually know who it is. And because in the show they changed it to being the 4th man. It's now because there was nobody else left. I was like, because you've written yourself into a corner, because there is no H, because you're going to have it be Hastings, and it's not Hastings. It's going to be Hilton, it's not Hilton. And there was, like, nobody else left in the show. And so when it was revealed that it was Buckles, who was kind of in the show, was this kind of, like, doddery idiot, kind of didn't care about the job. People, I think, didn't like that he was the mastermind. I didn't mind it, because it's not like he was the mastermind. He was just the only one left in the show, and the show had said that because they had got everybody else. He was just the last one left. He wasn't this criminal mastermind. He was just setting up these other like enterprises and stuff. And I think as well, my problem with it was that like it was just lackluster in how it was done. So the show, like, a real strong point in Line of Duty is the interview scenes, right? Well, they spend like 30 minutes interviewing somebody, and it's like really well written, and it's like really technical. But in the show it was like maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and he didn't put up much of a fight.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of got him, and then they were like, right, and then the show kind of wrapped everything up. I personally think what they've done is that the writer's gone, I've got to get out of this. I've written ourselves into this corner of this mystery man. I've got to get out of this, and then we can actually try to stop the actual corrupt police officers, who is like the chief constable is corrupt. We know that he's corrupt, and I think they've got away with this now to actually carry on with the real threats, and that's why it feels like it's the ending of the show, because in the show they've got all the pictures of all the main past leads, people who've died and stuff, on a board, and they took them all down and put them in a box, kind of like the show's ending.
Right, okay.
And I think they've just got away from this.
They kind of tried to hit the reset button.
Yeah, he's gone down, instead of going left, he's ended up going right off road. He's gone, oh my god, I need to go back left because the road's over here. and we need to take down the chief constable, and we need to, I think that's where we're going to go now. I don't think it's the end of the show. I just think he wrote himself into a corner and tried to write himself out of it. And the only way he could have made it interesting was to have this character, because he was the only one left, and it would feel like it was set up because other characters have come in and come out and stuff. So,
sure.
I think it was the best of kind of a muddled situation.
Yeah.
But I think people have just lost their minds. It's just kind of like, it's really not as bad as Game of Thrones. It was one questionable final 30 minutes compared to a whole few seasons of Game of Thrones, It's still a good... up until that last episode, it was a good show. Especially the last 2 episodes are really good.
Yeah.
It was the one villain gets killed, and I was really annoyed because he never got an interview. Because I would have loved... because his character kind of knew a lot. I would have loved if he got a big interview. And it didn't. It wasn't meant to be. But it is a good show. I do recommend the show, and I don't think it'll end because it had the most views since records began for a season finale. So it's not going to end,
big point.
is it?
Yeah, it had something like 12.5 million views, which in the post-streaming kind of iPlayer age is unprecedented. It's a huge amount of people.
I saw that because I saw loads of people calling it the series finale, and I was like, as in the finale of the whole series, and people online like, oh, I can't believe Line of Duty's ended, and I was like, but it got the highest viewed season finale. Well, it got the highest viewed episode of anything since records began. They are absolutely going to do a 7th season. And
if the writers say, yeah, this is the end, they would have said, and they would have marketed it as the final season. Yeah. They would have said, so, and they haven't said that, and they said, oh, we might do it, I'll see how it goes. I think they've just gone, let's see how I feel in a year or so, how the reaction goes. I think they definitely keep going, because there's money to be made. There's people, but the story isn't over. It's not going to end.
I was going to say, if there's story and scope to continue, you always continue. I mean, there's shows before now where you've seen them sort of end at I've seen shows end at season 6, and fans have been like, oh, but you could carry it on, and the writer's been like, no, my intention was always to go to season 6 and stop, so it stopped. But if you've not got an end game, then and there's still more to be explored, then carry on.
James's ears pricked up. Yeah, I have a hunch though about Line of Duty in that I've not seen any of the previous series, but from what I remember hearing,
it's wild speculation.
This is just baseless speculation. No, from what Ben's kind of alluded to and what I've heard sort of in the past from various people, series kind of 1, series 2, the early years were very much sort of police procedural, lots of kind of time in the interview room, very technical, very dramatic, very slow paced, and tightly written. And that was its main kind of thing. That it's something new for the BBC. It's actually this intellectual, quite sort of cerebral kind of thing. And as time's gone on, what are we up to now? Season 6. It's kind of lost that identity, as a lot of things do, as Game of Thrones did, as many things do. It's kind of become a bit of a parody of itself. It's become sort of, it seems to have become quite mainstream.
I was going to say it's become popular.
It's become popular, yeah. And it's still kind of a good quality show, but it's got a bunch of people to please now, and it's, I don't know, you've got all these theories on Twitter and internet fan theories and stuff, and it's one of those where there's just so many theories and no one's ever going to be satisfied, and it's just become this big thing that's sort of just aware of itself and its hype.
I'd be very interested to see what they do with the next season after this finale got such a sort of backlash, whether they'll really try and pull back from anything like that.
I think that's what the show's done. It really has. They've took literally all the names off the board, and there really is the villain, the main villain that is left is the Chief Constable. So just go after the Chief Constable, 1-2 seasons max, go out. Yeah. And then you get out the corrupt police out of the police force.
I can see how they could do that.
It's really simple. We're going after the Chief Constable. Boom, we're going to do it.
Get Carmichael on side, like I was saying the other day.
She'd be such a good asset if they can get her on side. The really passive-aggressive woman. Yeah. I fell subject as well, James. The show, this season particularly, was the most kind of mystery, fan theory-based season of the lot. So I did fall into a bit of a WandaVision
I was
like,
gonna say.
because so I'm a big James Nesbitt fan, the actor James Nesbitt, and he popped up in the show in photographs for the first time, and Dan's watched me over the weeks going, right, when's James Nesbitt going to show up?
Yeah.
And he dies like off camera, and I was like, well, he's not dead, is he? And the fan theory was like, you see it through head cams of Spanish military and head cams.
Night vision.
And night vision, yeah. And the fan theory is that James Nesbitt is one of the guys in the military because there's some dude's eyes look a bit like James Nesbitt. And I was like, yeah, James Nesbitt's alive. And it's like, no, I think he is just like
He's the big finale cameo.
Yeah, so I'm still clinging on to hope that Nesbitt's alive because I would really like him to be in the show. But
Maybe another thing that altered this season as well, and possibly the path of the plot, is the whole pandemic situation. Maybe they're just kind of like in a bit of a holding pattern, and they're thinking, yeah, we'll come back next year, we'll have a think, we'll bring back James Nesbitt, we'll bring back Alyssa Thorne from Game of Thrones, who plays the Chief Constable, and we'll just go all in and just proper wrap it up. Because it did feel, even as someone who's watched these, I am intrigued and I do kind of want to watch them, but someone who's not watched these, I did feel an anticlimax. It was kind of like, is that it? Like, I feel like there's a long way to go, much more story to tell, kind of thing, you know?
I feel like that's been a running theme with a lot of like recent online, well, especially online reactions to series finale.
Yeah.
Series finales have been happening over the lockdown, and I feel like every time a series finale happens, I go online and all I see is fans being like, wasn't as good as the rest of the show, was it? Wasn't what I expected.
Exactly.
It's like, why everyone's got such a high expectation of series finales now.
Yeah, because we all get together and discuss our theories, you know, and we all make our podcasts where we discuss, like, is it Mephisto, or is it the Chief Constable, or is it blah, 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 blah. And then, like, the writers have already written this thing, man, and it's like, nah, it's not. It's just something much more simple, and yeah, we always run the risk of being disappointed. We usually are. Anyway, shall we talk about the Bad Batch, or shall we talk about the Marvel trailer? We can go either direction. I reckon maybe the Bad Batch.
We'll do Bad Batch first.
Let's do Bad Batch first. So, the Bad Batch is Disney Plus's new Star Wars thing. It's an animation spin-off of the Clone Wars, right? Yeah. About a bunch of malfunctioned clones who are a bit
deviant. They're not dysfunctional.
Deviant clones, okay. Who are a bit like the A-Team.
They're dysfunctional. They're not defective.
Dysfunctional, deviant, defective.
That's the thing. They make a point in this one where someone calls them dysfunctional or defect. Someone calls them defective clones, and one of them's like, "Oh, we're deviant. We're not really dysfunctional." So,
interesting that he would say, "Actually, I'm a deviant."
I think it's more the fact of it saying, like, because clones are supposed to be this exact carbon copy and they aren't, so the people who tried to make them an exact carbon copy are like, well, there's something wrong with you, and they're like, we're not wrong, we're just different.
You guys are obviously fans of the Clone Wars kind of animated cartoon. It's not really a cartoon. Animation.
Yeah,
animated show. I've not really seen any of it. Kind of passed me by. You guys rave about it, saying it's like a legitimate Star Wars thing. It's had references in The Mandalorian that people have been very excited about.
I'd call them a bit more than references, but there's entire characters.
There's entire characters. Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not a reference. Flies under the radar.
Oh yeah. So it's pretty influential for Star Wars fans, Clone Wars. So this is its latest iteration, The Bad Batch. What did you guys think?
What did you think, Dan?
What did I think? Listen, right. I was kind of half watching it. I watched the first 5-10 minutes.
Not like you.
Maybe I should have given it more attention, but I don't know. There's something about that era of Star Wars. There's something about Star Wars in general, really, for me personally. I'm just kind of done with it. I like The Mandalorian because it's a bit different and it's not quite Star Wars enough for me to be like, oh, more Star Wars. It's interesting. And when it is Star Wars, it's kind of cool. Like when Luke's turned up and what have you, and when Boba Fett turned up, it's kind of cool. With the Clone Wars, it's just proper, like, it's just prequel imagery. It's just the clones. Again, this one guy, everyone's got the same face, and I don't really get it. I don't really want to get it. And it's like Order 66 again, Emperor Palpatine again. You know, obviously you guys disagree with me. I can tell you disagree with me. I can tell you all liked it quite a bit.
I don't disagree, Dan. I don't disagree.
I'm literally the complete opposite of Dan, where I love this era of Star Wars because it's the first, like, the prequels were the first ones I watched, so that's what, like, really, I like the Jedi, so I love returning to this period of time.
I was curious about the show because hopefully we'll see more, is the changeover of the Republic to the Empire. Because while, yes, this kind of it's kind of been mind hollow, especially the original trilogy. It's been mind hollow. That's a strange little grey area that I don't think's particularly been touched upon. And I liked watching the scenes of Tarkin coming in, taking up the clones, going, "I'm probably going to bin these off because they're expensive, and we're going to have just a conscription force."
Yeah, I like the explanation of why they do that. And the only thing that felt a bit hokey with that was literally, so this is what, hours, maybe a day afterwards.
The outfit.
No, I was thinking more the fact that it's like days or hours afterwards, and Saw Gerrera's already going, "Oh, we're now in the Galactic Civil War." Yeah. It's not even started. Why are you already referring to it as that?
It's lazy writing to refer to the rebellion.
I'm also kind of sick of seeing Saw Gerrera by now.
Yeah, and I didn't like the fact that, like you say, hours later, he's in full Imperial Grand Admiral Tarkin garb. I was like, okay.
They've got the new costume for the new war.
I think they just took the skin from Rebels and just put it in that show because they've already animated him.
They use the assets.
I thought it was a solid start. I thought it was a bit too long. I was a bit like, oh God.
I did think that. How long was it, Ben? It seemed to be on for ages.
It was like over an hour.
Yeah.
Of when these animated shows are 20 minutes max, and I was like, I feel it, man.
But I was making notes through it. And my first note was, felt kind of good to hear that intro narration voice again. I was like, oh, it's cool, we're back in the Clone Wars. Yeah. And then my second note was, in all caps, it's Kane and freaking Jarrus.
Yeah, that was cool. It was cool that Freddie Prinze came back. We can't seem to escape Scooby-Doo these days. Jesus Christ, Fred showed up.
I thought
I was so happy.
As a kind of neutral viewer, someone who's not familiar with Clone Wars, the little kid who Freddie Prinze Jr. voiced, right? How jarring was that? Like, I'm sorry, but the guy sounded like a 50-year-old man, and the character he was voicing, was he like a 12-year-old?
Yeah, I thought
he had the deepest, most adult male voice.
It was a little bit like he'd clearly tried to put on a young kid voice, but it wasn't quite there. But it's a thing of like, this character is such a big thing, and Freddie Prinze Jr. playing him such a big thing. Yeah. If they'd dared try to let anyone else play him, the fans would have been up in arms.
But yeah, a little bit jarring. One thing I will say though, the animation looked pretty decent.
Looked really good.
It's like certainly the action looks good, even though it's animated.
It's really improved, especially as the show has evolved in the Clone Wars. It did look really good, and that's like Rebels. They changed the style up to make it more kind of kid friendly and more like softer. And I don't like that style. I think it was more like budgetary reasons and maybe to differentiate it. But I really like this style in the Clone Wars. I thought it was a solid start. I found the kid really annoying, and I can't believe this kid's going to stick around for the whole show now. That's not going to go away.
Kids in Star Wars work fine, right?
A grizzled guy in armour taking care of a kid through space. I wonder where they got that idea from.
Yeah, Jesus Christ!
No,
like,
of course.
And like, you know, I'm kind of curious by the Last of Us show, but Pedro Pascal being Joel, looking after a little kid again, mate. Come on. Best thing about the Clone Wars for me was the clones. So I liked the idea of the show. I liked the characters. I thought the whole Crosshair thing was really interesting, and how he's kind of turned evil now. Because I was watching it going, the first 20 minutes going like, I don't know how dramatically interesting this is going to be, because how are any of them going to get killed? It'd be quite interesting to see. So possibly, I thought it was a decent start, and I hope there's a bit more of this whole Rebellion Republic changeover. And can we get rid of Saw Gerrera as well? I'm kind of a bit done with that as well. Again, it's shrinking the universe. We can't have everyone in every show hang out together. Like, I swear to God, if they hang out with Ahsoka, and they will, it's like, oh, mate, you can't meet everybody.
Ahsoka, I mean, I love Ahsoka, so I'd be okay if she turned up, but I think it might make more sense if they do, like, Rex, because then it's clone and clone kind of thing, and they've already met him. The bit when they're in the training exercise, and, like, Hunter gives all the hand signals and stuff like that, and Wrecker's like, what? oh, I hate hand signals. And he just goes, it just gives him a big thumbs up. Wrecker's
big
great in this episode. I've
great.
really enjoyed a lot of his stuff.
There's a great scene where they have a food fight with the regular clones in the lunch hall. That's really good. And how strange how I don't really like how I think it's out of character for regular. I guess because they've kind of been changed a bit. How the regular clones think them as secondary, and they are seen as separate in their little mini society. They sit on their own. They're not. They are treated different.
Bad Batch, though.
I don't like that idea though that they are shunned upon. Because they get nicknamed the Sad Batch, and I just don't think that's it. Like Rex wouldn't do that, but he is a clone.
Rex wouldn't. But that's the point, that he's better.
But all of those main characters from the Clone Wars, Domino Squad, Echo and his mates, they wouldn't do that, and they're all the same person.
Yeah, but like I think like that's what the Clone Wars kind of does, is it makes a point of, although they are the same, they do have like slight differences in personality.
I think this show's fine. I just think it kind of lacks that. It's just not that special. At least with the Clone Wars, it was doing like, oh, we're kind of going to dive into this, and it's just like a second spin-off, isn't it? It's like,
yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I like the characters. I enjoy what they do. The action was good in this, so I'm looking forward to see what they go forwards in this. And
it's just.
I think I want to like this, Ben.
I did like it. I just disagree with like what they're doing with Star Wars. Like I didn't say it was bad at all. I just disagree with like just mining it for everything it's got.
Nah, milk it dry.
Why would you want that?
Because then I get more Star Wars content.
Then
I like Star Wars.
Then it's not special, and then
you get more of it.
But doesn't mean it's good. More doesn't mean best.
No, but like if it's good, why would you not want it?
But it's like it's fine. Why make 5 mediocre shows when you can make one amazing iconic thing?
It's sort of like, to kind of bring it into a bit of a metaphor, it's sort of like, imagine like a chocolate cake, and it's all right. It's a bit dry. Maybe it's like a few days past its sell-by date or whatever. You got the full thing though, full cake, a big cake. Or you got a nice, rich, beautifully crafted. Maybe it's got some lint balls on it. It's just proper handcrafted, lovely slice of chocolate cake. What are you going to go for?
I told you before we started, I don't like chocolate cake.
You've missed my point, but okay.
Serious question, Dan. What the fuck are you on about?
That's easy.
That was a great metaphor. That was a great metaphor.
He's on about, would you like a full cake, but it's a stale, dry, horrible, spongy mess, or would you like a slice of a cake that's like rich, spongy, decent chocolate cake with the best possible chocolate icing on it?
I think it's all good though. I've not hated any Star Wars content that's been put out.
You'd eat both slices, wouldn't you? Greedy boy.
Give me more.
What's that kid, Bruce Bogtrotter?
Bruce,
You'd lick the plate.
I would. No, I think
James and Star Wars in a nutshell.
Talking about dry chocolate cakes that have long past their sell-by date, a new Marvel trailer came out the other day.
How dare you?
I'm joking.
Nasty that, Daniel. Nasty.
I'm joking. I love Marvel.
This isn't a dry chocolate cake. We've just had 10 years, and after 10 years, we finished our first chocolate cake, and now we're moving on to our second chocolate cake.
And someone is getting your head and just slamming it into the cake again and again, and just going, just eat it, and you're eating it. You are eating it.
And I'm loving every bite. But yeah, man, some cool stuff in this trailer. Like, so, we got a bit of a look back over all the films so far and blah, 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 whatever. But got some new stuff. We see our first Eternals footage. Looks pretty good, pretty interesting. I watched a video, like, sort of going through Eternals and the characters. I didn't actually realise they're kind of like an X-Men in that they've all got different abilities and stuff like this. I thought they were all just going to be sort of, I am God, I have strength. I think this film could actually be something a bit more interesting.
It's got a little something. It's got a little something there. It's the one. It's the one thing that I saw in that trailer, which was, I joke about Marvel being a bit rubbish, but it was a pretty good trailer. It was a good trailer. There was a lot of stuff in it. But Eternals kind of was the one thing I was thinking, oh, what's that? What is that? You know, it seems intriguing. There's a lot of big names in there. It seems like a slightly different aesthetic to what we're used to with Marvel. I'm interested. I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
They are like godlike, though, are they not?
Yeah, no, they are. But I thought it was going to be that they were all just a generic sort of boilerplate. They were the same, but I didn't realise, like, so you've got a speedster who's deaf, you've got, like, a healer, someone who can create any weapon that she can imagine, stuff like this. Like, they do have different abilities, so you've got some variation in there.
Can they be killed if they're gods?
I don't think they're gods. I think they're just, like, ancient beings. I think they can be killed, yeah. I'm pretty sure
they are the Eternals, and for comic reference, at one point, one of the members of the Eternals was Thanos, so...
I think it's already been confirmed that we are going to see a young Thanos in this.
Yes.
Young Thanos. So is this set? Is this in flashbacks, or is it set previously to?
I think the main storyline will be set modern day, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe even at the start, or we either will get flashbacks, or the start will just be a bit of a montage of them through the ages. Because there's a thing of one of them is like their tech guy, and he's got all the super high tech stuff, and he's then been the one who's given stuff to humanity to sort of advance.
I really like that whole idea, because Halo had that in it, actually. The Halo games had that idea of like a super advanced like human civilization and basically ancient alien technology being handed down and discovered and stuff. But what else did we have in there?
So like the only other two big things that we got from it were a reveal that the Black Panther sequel is going to be called Wakanda Forever, and that the Captain Marvel sequel is just called The Marvels, with the logo essentially confirming that it is going to be Brie Larson's character along with Monica Rambeau and Miss Marvel.
Wasn't there some sort of Fantastic Four like reference?
We just see the logo again.
It was
a
logo. So they're still teasing. They're still teasing that film. Nothing official has come out.
No. That out of all of the films that they showed in that trailer, it was the only one that didn't have a date.
Yeah.
So it's still very much we are working on the Fantastic Four, but we are not very far into working on it.
Yeah. It's been assigned a director, but I think that's it.
If the cast of Always Sunny isn't the cast, what is the point? What is the point?
Now, it's fine now that Chris Evans has finished as Captain America. They're going to bring him back as Johnny Storm again.
I'd rate it. I'd rate the dullness of it.
Can you imagine how confused people would be? It'd be insane. I have a question for James, but obviously, guys, you chip in if you've got any theories. But James, as the kind of Marvel expert, if you will, where is the Marvel universe going? What is going on? What are they building up to this time? Like, how are they going to top Endgame, etc., Infinity War, and all that? Who's the big bad going to be? What's where's the dramatic tension coming from?
They're building to Secret
Secret
Wars.
Invasion's only a TV show at the moment, so I don't know if that's going to be the next sort of
Secret War.
Infinity.
Yes, it'll be Secret War. They'll be leading to that.
So we've got Secret War and Secret Invasion, two separate things.
Secret War follows Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion was a storyline where they figured out that a bunch of the Skrull, who we've seen in Captain Marvel, have secretly, the shapeshifters have secretly been implementing themselves into human society to the point where some of the heroes that we've come to know and love weren't the actual heroes; they were the Skrulls in disguise.
Like Mad-Eye Moody.
Yes, exactly like Mad-Eye Moody.
Literally that. But it's like basically they've infiltrated human society and managed to work their way into positions of power so that they control human society, and that's when they figure out that there's it's called Secret Invasion because the entire planet was invaded and no one noticed for a while.
Interesting. That is interesting, but I don't know if it's interesting enough.
Well, that's why they've relegated it to a Disney Plus TV show starring Nick Fury.
Essentially, what you need there is a big, muscly man or woman to get in a big fight, flying above a city, and being shot at with beams and stuff.
Well, you need the big blue sky beam.
That's it.
We've got this tease of Mephisto. He could be the big bad. He has potential. The Fantastic Four could bring in Galactus, the Planet Eater. Potential.
So many characters.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. We already know that Kang the Conqueror is the bad guy for that.
Good lad.
He's got
good
some
lad.
potential. You know,
why isn't it crying? Why not bring in? Imagine, that'd be so good.
That would be good.
Because the Turtles are DC, Ben. They're not Marvel.
No, they can be whatever they want. It's Turtles, mate.
All right, guys, that's going to be it for the podcast today. I think it's been a good one. It's been a long one.
We've talked about it a lot.
Another big old bumper episode.
Consider pressing the subscribe button and pressing the little bell icon and then getting notifications of every single one of our videos. We've got some good stuff in the pipeline. We've got some new Time I Saw Trash coming up. We've got some new shorter videos. We've got I've Never Seen, which is our new feature coming up.
I think that's the first time we've mentioned the title of that, isn't it?
I was gonna say, I think that's the first title drop.
Yeah.
Is it really? Well,
exclusive for anyone who's made it this far into the podcast.
There's a little treat for the, I don't know,
the one
person. Probably Derek. Hello, Derek. I imagine you're still here. Probably
just
Carl.
for Derek and Ben's dad.
We appreciate Derek and David Pye for sticking with us to the end of this podcast.
And of course, all our fans in Brussels and in Ohio, we thank you for listening up to this point.
If you're watching, Dad, how was Night of the Comet? If you watched it, there you go.
Oh, that's cute. That. Hello, Ben's dad. Hello, Ben's dad. I'm going to go off script a bit here. Maybe we'll cut this. Maybe we'll not. We'll see how
about to happen?
He's just going to go back in and berate the audience for not watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles again.
Go watch the Turtles video. Go watch Mortal Kombat. No. I was just going to suggest something. If anyone in the comments, if people have got this far, put a little question down in the comments. Anything at all. I'm pretty sure you won't get anything, but if you have any pressing questions, that you would like us to answer, it doesn't even have to be film related. It can be Christian's beard related. What kind of products did he use, etc., etc. Anything really. Stick them down in the comments. This could backfire and no one will put anything in the comments, but it's worth a try. And we'll answer.
My dad will, won't you, Dad? Cheers.
There we go. Ben said again. Excellent. And we'll answer them on the next podcast. Anyway, guys, once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you've had fun. And for now, we have been the Spacemen from Pluto. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.